it going, guys? Chris here, bringing you another Modern Warfare 2 guide today, and in this one we're going to be taking an in-depth look at the Kastov 762, one of the game's hard-hitting assault rifles unlocked at rank 23. So you could probably guess that the Kastov 762 is linked with the Kalashnikov design, and the gun in the game is basically the AK-103, an up-to-date modernised version of the AKM assault rifle, which originally came out in the late 1950s, as a successor to the infamous AK-47, one of the most successful and well-recognised weapons in history. The AKM was basically an improvement, and the newer AK-103 is once again another improvement. Not much has really changed too much mechanically. At the end of the day, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. As the AK-103 basically just brings the old design into the modern age, replacing all the heavy wooden furniture with lightweight polymer and plastic materials. And unlike those older designs in the series, the new one's compatible with optics, attachments and accessories, another thing to put it more in line with the guns of today. With all this said, the AK-103 isn't exactly brand new technology, being something that's been around for about 30 years already, in the early 90s. It was mainly designed with export in mind, with a lot of units actually being shipped to Venezuela. With that said, it has been used natively by special law enforcement, along with several Eastern and African nations too. So, checking out all the stats next, there's no argument that the Kastov 762's bullets are some of the hardest hitting in the assault rifle category, with the gun having more strength than its competitors. It dishes out higher damage figures pretty much everywhere across the board, allowing it to take down players in less shots as a result, usually 3 to 4 depending on range. You don't really have to worry much about where your bullets land, as they're all going to have a decent impact, even on limbs and lower body. Though chest shots will extend the rifle's re-hit kill range out to about 12 meters more, so over medium distances, this can often help to put players down a tad faster, which is a good thing to keep in mind. Headshots are going to be even more brutal, really giving the Kastov 762 some impressive stopping power. And despite only shooting at the speed of 600 RPM, the slowest rate of all the assault rifles, this still doesn't really impede its use as an aggressive weapon, actually having some of the most competitive kill times of the lot, no matter where your shots land on the body. Aside from the TAC-56 slightly beating it in close quarters for chest shots, the Kastov 762's extra power is generally unmatched, making it a pretty punishing weapon to get tagged by over all ranges. Though with it having that much steadier rate of fire than average, missing too many shots can become more problematic than normal, increasing the time to kill, thus giving your opponent more of a window to return the fire. So, time for a recoil test. If you fire away from the distance of 10 meters, you're going to notice that the Kastov 762's general shot pattern drifts upwards and almost immediately to the right. Groupings aren't too spaced out, at least compared to some of the other full auto weapons in the game, though I suppose this could be helped out by the gun's steadier fire rate, making it slightly easier to control. The same sort of results can be seen over multiple tests, vertical recoil being dominant, but the gun's line of fire leaning over to the right side, so that rightwards drifting could potentially throw your aim off, make the Kastov feel a little bit less precise over longer distances, with its horizontal movement affecting accuracy, and that vertical kick affecting stability. It's not a terrible pattern, but it could still cause some complications with prolonged fire, especially against long-range targets. Definitely not made any better by the fact that the gun's got a really low center speed too, so your sights will take a tad longer to reset to their resting position from that somewhat heavy recoil, probably making that recoil feel a bit more exaggerated and trickier to keep under control, as you might find it harder to snap from target to target and retain as much stability against enemies at range. Otherwise, the Kastov 762's got a pretty normal bullet speed and hip fire spread, putting it on par with the other assault rifles as far as those stats are concerned. When it comes to reliability, the Kastov 762's got some really strong pros and cons, as it can deal with ammunition generally better than average, but has worse mobility stats, making it feel less manoeuvrable during gunfights. A standard 30 round capacity isn't exactly anything out of the ordinary here, but because the gun fires at a slower, more manageable pace, and because less bullets are usually needed to put your enemies down, the Kastov 762's magazines can feel a bit more sustainable than something that likes to whiz all of its shots out in rapid flurries every time you squeeze the trigger, generally letting the Kastov 762 knock down more players per magazine than normal. This is also complemented by some faster than average reload speeds, more particularly when you're swapping mags with shots left over, which only take 2.55 seconds, the same as the TAC-56. But unfortunately, that's where the good stuff ends, with the rifle being hindered by some slightly longer aim down sight speeds, reducing its effectiveness for aggressive play. This is definitely something you'll want to keep into account, especially when you're in close quarters, as although the Kastov can be deadly and perform pretty well within earlier ranges, those slower ADS speeds might just put you at a disadvantage if an enemy pops out of nowhere and you're unprepared to take them on. So moving over to Gunsmith now, probably the main weaknesses you might want to try and improve is the gun's mobility and recoil. So for a lot of you guys, picking attachments that can benefit those areas might help to increase performance. For starters, I'd recommend trying out the Kastovia 343 barrel to help a little bit more with manoeuvrability. You could opt for one with heavier wooden furniture, like the Kas 7, which targets recoil more, though it will reduce your ADS speed even further, which you might then need to try and rectify with another attachment. One way to do this though, and sharpen up those ADS speeds without sacrificing any recoil or range stats, would be to add on a laser sight, such as the Corio Las 44 or the OLED V laser. The more useful ones are going to be the brightest that are visible by enemies, but this should at least help to counter one of the Kastov 762's biggest drawbacks, statistically making it pretty solid. If you want to keep handling feeling sharper, I'd advise using the default iron sights, or at least something without too much zoom. Though for use on larger maps and on ground war, some slightly higher magnification optics like the VLK 4.0 might prove to be useful, in combination with attachments that have tightened up the recoil. As for the stock, the base one's fine enough and provides a decent balance, though I suppose you could add on the KSTV RPK if you intend to use the gun over longer distances, with that improving recoil while lowering mobility. Though I'd probably avoid the stocks which help to improve ADS speeds, as they're going to make the recoil feel more pronounced and tricky to get to grips with, and in this case it's just not really worth the trade-off. Something that probably will be worth the trade-off for a lot of you guys will be the smaller 20 round magazines, which help to speed up those already fairly nippy reloads, along with making the gun more manoeuvrable across the board, giving you faster aim down sights, sprint to fire, and overall movement. And because this doesn't negatively affect the recoil, and because 20 rounds can seem manageable in most situations, this is one of those attachments that definitely solves more problems than it creates. Because the Kastov 762 is subjected to a fair bit of both vertical and horizontal recoil, you might want to find a muzzle that targets those two parameters more so. Something like the Lockshot or maybe the Tread 40. Most of the muzzles will reduce ADS speeds, though if you've already got quite a few attachments that help with mobility, one of these muzzles might seem useful for keeping the gun's recoil in check over mid to long distances. Though I suppose you could always add on a suppressor instead, like the Kastovia DX90 or the Polar Fire S, that might help to boost range performance too, at the expense of a bit of mobility. In conclusion, the Kastov 762 is one of those weapons with lots of very strong positives and negatives. It deals more damage and packs a pretty mean punch, but it's also got the curse of being the slowest firing base game assault rifle, so missed shots can be more problematic, as they're going to increase the time to kill more than normal. Providing you can land your bullets in a gunfight, the Kastov 762 can potentially put the other guy down fast, with less of those bullets usually being needed, as in most cases, 3 to 4 should be enough to seal the deal, no matter what part of the body those shots actually connect with. This can make the rifle feel really deadly and consistent, with the high power helping to counter that slow fire rate, ultimately giving the Kastov 762 some pretty impressive kill times as a result, so long as you're landing those shots that is. This might not always be super easy to do however, especially over longer ranges, as upwards and horizontal kick can be quite strong, and that low center speed can make the recoil feel more exaggerated, sometimes making it feel a bit awkward to control, snapping from target to target and trying to stay accurate against a player further away in the distance. The lack of responsiveness doesn't end there either, as longer aim down sights times hinders mobility, which can lower the gun's effectiveness within those earlier ranges too, making it slightly less aggressive than some of its alternatives. You'll have a lot of power in your hands, but you'll also have a few things to keep in mind, if you want to put that power to good use. But at least you'll very rarely have any ammo struggles, with the gun's steadier fire rate, high bullet damage and snappy tactical mag swaps helping to keep you in the action for longer. So that's it for this one guys, give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe to see plenty more right here on my channel. Thanks for watching, take it easy, and I'll be seeing you in that next one.